Yeah, but I just, wow, when I started coming home and there's dishes in the sink, it's like, what the hell? So so now you don't do anything there, you just click off. You don't play that, but you click off of there. Got it. We're good.
Okay.
And then go to back up to here. And then you're gonna make her the host, so the dot, yeah, like the fourth, yep. And then, yeah, and then mute that one.
So you can sit anywhere over there in there, okay? Sit here.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Kathy, then there's a possibility that Renee Grossman will come for persons present to talk about
Hi, everyone.
cats and everything. Hi, Ben. And Ben may ask you to give a little background to remind the board of the background of, we didn't have it. We had a cat, then we got rid of the cat, then we had a cat.
Can I also say that she has a chain of stores? Thanks to Jessica's bright.
I mean, she got 4. Yeah. She got 4. Yeah.
Is the chain 4?
Well, in the
What's the
state,
chain?
in the state statute, it says 3 or more.
She's got one in Snowmass. She's got one in Carbondale. She has one in Salt. She has one in Parachute.
Yep. So. If you guys, like,
I'm trying to find her. It's on YouTube.
it was all fine.
I don't care. You know what?
A lot of like.
She can do whatever she wants to me.
Oh, yeah.
She's gonna do anything to you, but she's scared of you.
Renee Grossman.
What's
up?
Work session, yeah. I saw the.
I put that there because CLEER forgot to include it in their stuff. So, I don't know if you're gonna want to put it on the, just attach it in the minutes or whatever, but I put a copy of it on each of the trustees' desks.
So normally I wouldn't put that in the minutes. I would just put it in the back of the packet. Okay. It's just. Did you update that online? It's done.
Signing. Good start. It's
Well, this is
all the school stuff.
I've learned my lesson hard. I stood up and like, oh, shoot. I don't- Hey, Ben, how's it going? Good, how are you doing? You got my letter, right? Yes, I want to say thank you again for that. Good, yes. Good. Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. I think it's- but we get two slides. I'm really lucky emotional and I-
This is the cutest part of every board, every meeting. They're so cute. These kids are so cute.
I don't know what that means, but.
I don't get out much.
It's not what I heard.
Well, I know it's not. System doesn't feel like it's set up. Right? It feels like-
So the Aspen Science Center is offering free coding classes for kids like in middle school. I think like twice a month.
That's cool. Too bad I don't have any middle school kids anymore.
Are we touching that one?
Hmm?
No. Yeah.
No, it's just me leaning on the desk. Are you limping?
No.
Oh, for a minute, you looked like you were limping.
See, he always sits
Are there
there.
people in here?
So we're placing bets on like.
Sit
where
wherever
you
you'd like.
sit. I said Colin always sits over there, Marty sits here, Lonnie sits there, even though.
Okay, all right.
Change it up.
See? Features of
How you
pattern,
doing? Good.
features.
Mm-hmm.
I should give you a quick grab. Yeah. It's nothing.
He's not from the public hearing.
No.
There's Lonnie. You didn't drown in the water on your floor?
It's, it's not fun.
Ugh,
It's just,
sorry.
Huh?
Big dash.
Dash? No. I guess.
So basically, they just switched places.
Wow. So well said.
The rest of the candy in there, that was our bet, but we
Right, for sure, after that cookie. I want to say his name is Dan Snow.
Hey, Chris.
Okay, so
Oh.
I was sick last week and I didn't get to congratulate you guys on your tenure and your 1 year anniversary.
Aw,
Thank you.
thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you, Lonnie.
And happy Valentine's Day to you too. all these people that have these ins at these companies, all these people that have these ins at these companies,
Yeah.
you know. Like my daughter, she's like, I'm gonna order something from Smart. Do you need anything? It's 50% off. I'm like, "All right,
And then, that's when she was sexy.
Plug.
Hey, how's it going, Lisa?
Hey, Elise, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
It was always the same.
Yeah. that was all this is. They could sit in- Yeah.
I don't see that one in the packet. Maybe it's in there, but do we know who that's for? Just so that we make sure that we get it.
So that's gonna be kind of like a policy that Eric has.
Okay. But it's in the
It's not-
consent.
Is it
You
in the
didn't see it
packet?
in there?
Probably just not looking. Right. Maybe it's
Let's be
above
sure to
where I'm
say
looking.
that.
Okay, I'm probably looking in the wrong place because
I
I'm
don't
looking
have any
right.
attachments on mine, so,
Okay,
um,
okay. And you know what? I'm probably not looking down far enough because I was looking right after.
It'll be right after the safe belt contract. Hey, Erica. So you weren't
so
insulted?
I think that,
I thought, boy, I'm. taking my
So it's
life
not for
in
a
my hands.
specific group. It's just the general policy.
general
Okay, I do
policy
remember
for
reading I do remember
non-profits.
that.
Okay.
Because it said about.
It's
we
not
can't
for
waive the
specific,
hours of-
yeah, it's just for
I got
nonprofits.
it. Thank you.
Well, having those.
Shuffle
Yeah,
back.
she voiced it over there.
All right, well, it being 6 o'clock, we will get started with our favorite part of the meeting, which is Student of the Month Awards. I will stand over here.
I don't know if the next.
Okay. It's on. And we'll use this microphone. So students, when I call your name, you can come up and stand here and that way your family can see you. And that camera up there is actually on like YouTube, stuff like that. And this microphone is what people can hear. So that's why I like to see it. So we will start off. Our first student of the month is Olive Keelan.
Look at that.
You can turn back away. Here we go. There, you take a picture. 1, 2, 3. All right. And I'm gonna read it. It says, Olive listens to others carefully. She is willing to share and take turns. Olive is a great team player and plays fair. She's a very nice student. What school do you go to, Olive? PRES. And what grade are you in? First grade. What are some things that you like to do for fun? Oh, can you shake my hand? All right. Congratulations, Olive. On being student of the month. Our next student of the month is Aaron Lopez. Welcome, Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hi,
You can look this way so everybody can see you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What school do you go to?
I go to CCS and I'm in 5th grade, and my favorite hobby is to play baseball and football.
Awesome. It's almost baseball season, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm gonna read what it says. Aaron is a caring, learning student. When someone needs help, he's willing to jump right in and help. Just this week, our lunch helper began to fall and he rushed over to make sure she was okay and asked if he could help her with things to the counter. He has a very caring heart. Aaron always cares about others, treats his peers and all results with kindness and shows a strong desire to help people. And Aaron is an absolute delight. Those are great things to hear. Congratulations. All right, our next student of the month is Juan Barajas Castro. Give your next name, we can look out that way so everybody can see you. What school do you go to, Juan? Cool, and what grade are you in? Eighth? Awesome. Let's see what your teachers and friends have to say about you. They said, Juan is a kind person. One day in January, a middle school classmate ordered hot lunch. Another student ate it. Juan witnessed this, stood up, gave his hot lunch to that student, and proceeded to make himself a simple sandwich. He then told a staff member that he and his mom have been talking about how important it is for all of us as humans to give with our whole hearts and deep mind. Juan has had quite a few serious life events in his short years on earth. He already knows with this example what he needs to do to be a good citizen in the world, and will have a great impact. That is an awesome story, Juan. Congratulations. All right, we have two more. The next student of the month is Elizabeth Gallardo Noyola. Elizabeth here? Okay, how about Dalen Alvarado Membrano? Is anybody here that we missed?
Oh, please tell me.
Louise? No? Okay. Why don't you come on up, Louise, and we'll get to the certificate another time. How about that? Come on up. What school do you go to, Louise? Kindergarten. All right. And what are some things you like to do? Okay. Well, congratulations on being student of the month. I'm sure you've done some really great things, and we're going to give you some certificates. Congratulations.
I think it's really nice.
We do all that small. He wasn't that direct.
Okay.
He's in kindergarten, so that's like, I think his mom.
Okay.
Okay, any other students that we missed?
It's hard on the heart.
Okay, and just Louise's family, if you can let Kathy know what school, so that we can check in. All right, thanks for being here. You're welcome to stay. We've got a busy meeting, but we go in.
That's the first
Thank you. Yeah.
and the last. Thank you. Can I have 1 minute? I need a minute.
Sorry.
So this is the same. Let's see our needs. We need to check that out. Because I'm. That's first.
We ready? All right. We will call the meeting to order, and Kathy, could we start with roll call?
Ben Baumfock,
Here.
Lonnie Kitching, Colin Laird,
Here.
Chris Hassig,
Here.
Marty Silverstein,
Made it on.
Luis Ianes,
Here.
Erica Sparhawk.
Here.
Everyone in attendance in person. Nice to see everybody. We have a pretty big consent agenda, and I understand Louise is gonna recuse. That's fine, you can stay. A is accounts payable, B is, work session minutes from January 17th, C is regular meeting minutes from January 24th. D is liquor license renewal for La Fogata, E is special event security requirement policy. We might want to, any clarifications, we might want to chat about that for a moment. F is recommendation for a point to the environmental board. G is RAFTA first last mile grant agreement. H is safe silk contract, and I is town stage fee waiver. Kirk, since you're here, do you want to tell us anything about just what changed since we last looked at the security requirements? I noticed we talked about maybe replacing some of the security requirement with volunteers, and it looked like they could get 25% reduction. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to highlight?
No, Eric and I think we had some long discussions and then chatted with some other of the large event organizers. With implementing this year, our goal is if they choose to supply volunteer security personnel, which is quite simplistic and it's how to do that. So we provide 4 trainings for the individuals. They would receive ICS 100 and ICS 200, which is a National Incident Management System. Pretty basic. It's all available online, and it's a free course. Both are free courses. Police department will train anyone that chooses to get their individuals trained for volunteer security. We'll provide CPR first aid training. And then the police department's also working on coming up with a 1-day, what does this all mean kind of training. Really looking to have it under 4 hours, talking about liquor license. Liquor license is why it's important that liquor doesn't leave the event area, things of that nature, making sure there's no underage drinking. And once they successfully complete that, then we will offset their security requirements 1 for 1. We'll do that 25% the first year and continue to knock that down 25% every year as long as everything's going well. And, events are moving along smoothly, but they'll meet with me and we'll have conversations about how we proceed after every year.
Great. Any questions for Kirk about?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I understand up to 25% can be volunteer as long as they complete these programs or these programs. So when you say, I'm just trying to be clear about everything that's in yellow
Yes.
in the packet.
Yep.
So an event that has alcohol served that has 1,000 people, 1,100 people. 1,100 would require 3 people. Correct? So one of those 3 could be a volunteer.
One of those 3 could be a volunteer.
And the other 2 would need to be outside security.
With the outside security, understanding that security would still need to be implemented to ensure that alcohol is not leaving the area. So some of these smaller events, depending on how they're mapping, they still need to meet the requirements for alcohol permitting, so that alcohol is not leaving. But yes, we can knock that down. I feel pretty comfortable, especially with the smaller numbers.
But you still say something, say someone runs the rec center. And I don't know, what's the maximum capacity there?
About 700, depends on if you have tables or.
Okay, so let's use the example of 700. So they only need 1 person.
Well, the rec center already has that period.
And separate.
Okay.
And that's in your packet,
What about Third Street?
2 separate things.
Third Street Center isn't our event location,
So you know.
so it would be Silver's Park.
So first of all,
Yes.
1,000 people.
Mhm.
Okay, so you need 1,100, you need 3 people. 1 could be a volunteer, 2 would need to be professional. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, and if they had more volunteers, but you still need the 2 professional.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay, and then we're
in
gonna
order-
reevaluate it after this year.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Any questions? It was a little confusing to me at first, but I appreciate Eric's clarification that there's 2 different charts of equations in here, and one's for the rec center, and other ones for the parks and the rodeos, and like a street closures.
And they're very similar in how they work. The expectations are the same. All of the security personnel are going to be responsible to make sure, again, if it's an alcohol event, alcohol is not coming in or going, no underage drinking. If it's at the rec center, those personnel are making sure that no damage is happening to the rec center, things of that nature. So kind of putting a little bit of responsibility back on the event promoter.
And the event promoters that you've spoken with, the major events that were here last week, they feel like this is doable.
They feel like that it's doable. Yeah. Yeah. Specifically Mountain Fair, we chatted about it and did the math on it. Okay. Feel very comfortable with it.
Great. Well, I appreciate you being flexible on that, but also kind of, you know, a little bit of a wake up call for people, right? We're going to take security quite seriously and we're going to have maybe some new protocols. I actually like the increased training for people. And that, you know, led by the police department and professional organizations to make sure everything's safe. So
Well, I think that's, and thank you, and that's really key. That's something that we did not see last year, was an integration of security firm with other security measures that are going on. And that was actually something that came from Eric and Mountain Fair, wanting to make sure that there's a complete integration with all of our security personnel, including law enforcement.
Great. Great. It's just a consent agenda item, but I appreciate this since you're here and Eric's here.
Absolutely.
The only other one I might just ask for a tiny bit of background, Lauren, is on Safe Built, partly just so that we can all express that to the community when people ask us about how it's going without some key staff in our building department.
Certainly. We are still looking for a building official. And we are functioning with our permit tech, Mary, and an outside contractor who's doing inspections and an outside contractor who's working part-time doing plan review. Our time frame from submission to building permit is quite long at the moment and too long. So what we're trying to do is give ourselves some contingency planning and overflow outlets so that, for example, right now, there are probably 15 things that are in process, either in zoning review or in building plan review. And some of them are taking a very long time. And we'd like to be able to farm especially some of the simple stuff out, or conversely, something that might be very complicated and might take our one part-time guy, you know, weeks and weeks and weeks, where we may be able to pass this on to Safe Built, who's very, well respected in the field, and have it back in 2 weeks. So, so we're just trying to play all our cards at the moment. May I just say one more thing, Ben? This is actually just about equivalent to what we're paying now for our outside contractor. So it's not much cheaper or more expensive. It's pretty on par.
So replaces that contractor, or is it in addition?
No, it's an addition.
Because it doesn't, there's no inspection. They don't have a person over here.
We have contracted with them in the past for inspection, and that's why it's in this contract in case they manage to get an inspector on the western slope, but right now they don't have one.
And the applicants are paying plan fees that offset.
That's correct.
most of that. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, let's check our mics. Motion by Erica, second by Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Louise for. Anybody else? Please? All right. Next item is persons present not on the agenda. If you're here and you'd like to address the board on something that's not on the agenda, now's your time. So you put the guys and let us know what that is. Anybody online?
Nope.
Okay. We'll move right on then. Trustee comments. Do we have comments?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start down there and just wrap her up.
Great seeing you all. It's like it's been a long time since I've been to a meeting. Yeah, I had a good time at the different conferences I was at. I made it to the chamber meeting last week, and things are going well for them. They've got some really new engaged board members that came on in January. But it's great to see them just participating. Independence Run and Hikes owner is on. and the owner of Alegria. So it's nice to have a retailer and a restaurant represented, and it just really helps with the conversations. One of the things they do is they have all the businesses go around and kind of check in on their businesses. So it's kind of cool to hear just how they're all doing now that there's kind of a broad spectrum of representation there. So really appreciate all their participation. And then they do have a business after hours tomorrow evening at Botany, which is the new houseplant store next to Dos Gringos. So if anybody wants to go there, and for all of the public listening, it's a great networking event and a cool way to interact with the chamber. That's all I have.
There you go. I was just looking on Chris, do you have any comments?
I don't have much. We just had a bike head meeting last night that went well, and I think we're tying up the last loose ends on an RFP thing for our review, which I think will schedule sometime in March or something, but I think it's been pretty good. They bounced back and forth amongst members and Kevin, and so it's some investments. I think it's
And we're checking the bike trails next week.
yeah. So we can probably talk about that.
We had our Parks and Rec Commission meeting last week. We also have a check-in with them next week, and so they'll come with a pretty full agenda. Just tackled looked at Red Hill Trail user numbers, review new cemetery software that Parks and Rec is going to implement, and just integrated weed management plan that things are moving ahead and requires plans next week. Great. Yeah, that's it.
Any comments?
Yep, I ran into former student trustee Bowden Hamilton up on the ski hill, who was using his leadership skills to manage one of the lift lines, which was really fun to see. Okay, so thank you to the many community members who came to the last public comment hearing on the Gray Wolf reintroduction. The CMC auditorium was packed for the special meeting. And although this was the last in-person session, the public can still submit comments online and also reference state statute Title 32, Article 2, Section 105.8 at engagecpw.org for consideration towards completion of the final plan in May. So we've been following this closely because Carbondale sits squarely in the center of the Zone 1 release area. Public comment on a different hot topic of the West Elk Loop Trail expansion will be open tomorrow at the 3rd Street Center from 5 to 6:30. And although this area is outside of our jurisdiction, being on a section of the 83-mile stretch from Redstone to the McClure Pass, a lot of our community members attended this initial pre-COVID public meeting hosted by the local Forest Service. And I don't believe they'll have a formal presentation again, but maps and storyboards will be set up around the meeting hall, and the Forest Service personnel will be on hand to review and answer questions for anyone who might be interested. Closer to Carbondale and recently published, you may have read that the Wild and Scenic Feasibility Collaborative selected its facilitators to lead the community engagement and stakeholder process that we endorsed to obtain the Crystal River Wild and Scenic designation. American Whitewater, which is a national nonprofit, will be supporting the Wellstone Group in the administration of the effort, and the Southern Rockies Stewardship Director, who happens to be a Carbondale resident and one of the principals we met during their group presentations, adds confidence that we'll be well represented as a community throughout the process. Other town residents actively involved include Board of Staff of Pickens County Healthy Rivers, SVEPA, CVEPA, that include members of our Carbondale boards and commissions, and of course Wilderness Workshop is a strong influencer. Almost done. Rowaka had its regular board meeting last week, which was standard business to include the executive director's annual performance review. Of note is that there will be a second watershed collaborative with the 64 invitees I mentioned the last time, and hosted at the 3rd Street Center the morning of March 1st. So although not open to the public, if any of our board and staff would like to sit in, I'm happy to facilitate your attendance. So let me know. The topic requested for deeper discussion from the December Watershed Collaborative is the Colorado River Health. Okay, one more. The swim project encountered a little setback from Mine Springs as the detox program's operator. Since it's a personnel matter, I won't go into it, but governance stepped in right away to separate further association from the Mine Springs internal issue with the swim program, which for those interested was written up in the February 4th Post Independent. And governance will be holding a more detailed meeting on the 21st. And then lastly, did the board members open or receive today's senior matters newsletter? Does everybody on the board receive the senior matters? Marty and I do as the old people, but yeah. He was well.
I don't think I did it.
No,
Is there a big reveal in there?
I know.
well. This is just for our information, right? The two senior groups we're familiar with that are in the process of merging. Into a single entity that will both maintain the senior matters programming and the age-friendly community initiatives. So the next time we have contact, it'll be with the same people coming in with a different look. To date, under legal consultation, they've commingled their funds with the intent to abide by the founding articles and bylaws of the original town-sponsored Senior Matters 501c3. This recognizing that any residual public funds previously granted by Carbondale or other public funds can't be applied to politically motivated campaigns. So then separately, the plan is to form a 501c4 as the means to fundraise in support of their more activist movements. The naming and the leadership of the United Group, I believe, are yet to be determined, which best guess may be formalized by late spring, when several of the principals return from their warm winter digs. So this is more for us so that we're not confused the next time we come in contact. Okay, that's it for me. I'm carefully watching my clock here. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lenny.
Yeah.
And we have an update, I believe, from Kathy next week. So we'll have that conversation very soon.
We'll be
Good.
well informed in advance.
Thanks to you.
So I attended the Rapid Board meeting, which I did with Ben, but Ben wasn't there, so I had power, I get to vote. And boy, did I wield it. So as everybody is, Iraq is still great, dealing with driver shortages. They were very fortunate and it was all hands on deck, got through the X Games, which is kind of their high service level for the winter. So made it through that. And moving forward, I think Ben mentioned they bought the roadway in Norwood Springs and they're converting it into 40 units, rental housing for staff. They hope to be open fall, winter. We'll see. I mean, that's the goal. But pretty exciting. I learned in chatting with folks at GAST that real estate transfer taxes, getting that enabled is their top priority. The goal is to get it in as a referendum in November 2024, when most people would be voting instead of 2023. Right now, the way the House and Senate are set up, Assembly and Senate, they're one vote short from being able to put a referendum before the voters. There's one senator, they're one senator short, or the Democrats are one senator short. But there's a lot of talk of trying to convince our current senator, Senator Will, to be that person. We'll see. And the approach is local control and options and toolkits. Doesn't mean everybody's going to use it, but we should be able to have that example. And the neat thing about it is we have an example right up the road of a community that has had it for 30 years and is building up for housing units. So that said, I was encouraged to see if we would appoint
folks to participate in CAST. So I don't know the best way to do that. I'm happy to help with that. It was recommended we appoint two, just because it's good stuff, and if someone can't make it, sometimes there's some travel involved. Related to that, I ended up talking with Representative Elizabeth Velasco about RED, and shared CAST and some information from the Colorado Fiscal Institute, just so she can get up to speed. She's going to do some research. And in the course of that conversation, she shared with me that she's sponsoring a bill that goes to committee tomorrow, House Bill 23-1115, that would repeal the prohibition on rent control throughout the entire state. So since 1981, rent control has been statutorily illegal. So she is going into committee tomorrow. We obviously have not talked about that at all. She didn't really tell anybody she was doing this. But maybe as we think about how we interact, we might want to think about a legislative discussion at some point. But tomorrow, if you're interested, you can listen in, you could say something if you want to on the Capitol. It's Bill 1115. On the other side, Senator Will has a bill with Representative, I think it's Buggy. I don't think it's Buggy. To repeal the delivery fees that were put into place 2 years ago. These fees actually fund EV adoption and clean fleet work. So I don't think we need to do anything about that. CC4CA is organizing, which we're a member of, is organizing a lot of public comment against that. But just wanted to give you guys a little update on legislative stuff. Things are moving very quickly at the State House. That's all I had.
Thanks, Colin. It's really interesting, and thanks for getting involved in some of the state level stuff and sharing the information with us. It's just good to know what's going on.
So, Colin, are you saying that we should be lobbying Perry Will if we want on the rec? They're trying to get him to be the
I think it's just one person who has come up who represents an area with a lot of communities that potentially would use it.
Well, seeing how he's our representative.
Yes. So
We'd be the ones to
I
lobby.
would hate to say that we should lobby him without us talking about what our position would be.
No, as an individual.
As an individual,
I wanted
if you want me to,
be effective.
yes,
He would be a good person to speak.
he would be a good person to talk.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, you want to keep going? Any other comments?
I'll keep going. I'll just say, tree board did not meet last month. We took January off in honor of Erica's birthday and mine. But we are meeting on Thursday. And we are moving ahead, plans for Arbor Day, and also in conjunction with Parks and Rec, possible ideas for planting trees and or plants at Chagos Park. Okay, just looking at what things might be possible. And that's about it. Welcome to our new county clerk. You know, if you can survive Kathy, you can survive anything.
Morning. Building on a few things and giving a few updates as well here. As Colin mentioned, we joined CAST, which is Colorado Association of Ski Towns this year. Next week at our work session, we're gonna have a little discussion about exactly that. So how do we want to deal with that membership? Who'd like to represent us? Who wants to get emails? They send out a lot of information. And so I think it'd be good to reduce that volume for some of us and focus it in. So we'll talk about that. But they have an event in Denver, March 2nd, which is rapidly approaching. And their block of hotel rooms that they've got a good rate on expires, I think, tomorrow. So if anybody's interested in going to that, It's the legislative meeting, so it's an annual legislative meeting. Is anyone interested in going?
No, okay.
Okay. I'd say just go for it. If you
The whole
have,
idea of driving to Denver seems so,
I'm appealing.
no, I'm just like, when was the last time I did that?
right, good. I can't do it that week or I would have offered to. And then in conjunction with that, potentially Wilderness Workshop reached out, not in conjunction with that, but it could be a good kind of opportunity. The Wilderness Workshop is gonna make an effort to get some local officials to go to state offices to just continue to keep the sense of urgency around the Thompson Divide lease withdrawal at the federal agencies, kind of state offices. So it's probably a BLM and Forest Service, director's office kind of thing. So I let them know when they reached out because they were looking for a date. And I said, well, there's this cast meeting. And you'll have a lot of people from the region who could go do that. So Colin, if you're thinking about doing cast, I might copy you over on an email there. Unless anybody else was super keen to do that. And it sounds like there's going to be other opportunities to continue to help lobby for Thompson. I wanted to follow up that Nikki Delson brought the issue to our attention a few weeks ago about an anti-Semitic incident that happened in high school, and just the fact that there wasn't really a protocol for notifying the town, notifying the local Jewish community about that. She and I have had follow-up conversations, and I'm having some conversations with folks in the school district about maybe establishing a fairly simple protocol that we document these things, we share information, and we have a list of groups that would want to know about different types of incidents, so that so people don't feel like things are happening if they're not aware of them. So I appreciate your advocacy for that. Colin did a good summary of Representative Velasco's work and stuff going on at the state capitol. For now, I talked to Alex Sanchez from Voces Unidas, and he was asking if we might support the rent stabilization bill. And I said, let's see if it gets out of committee, and then let's see if that's something that we want to dive into. But that you can think about the real estate transfer tax, the RET, and the rent stabilization bill. It's basically the same kind of thing. They're both things where 30+ years ago, the state passed laws that said, one in Tabor of the Constitution and the other in state statute, that says, even if your local people want to do this, they can't. They can't place tax on real estate transfers, and they can't control rent. And everything else you can control locally, except those things. And so it would just be, as Colin explained, making that a local control issue. And I think with that lens, it's easier to support. It's not saying, do we want to control rent? It's saying, should the community be able to have that discussion and make that decision? The other thing I wanted to mention, because I think I might have been the only one on the email from the board, is that John Groves from Parks and Wildlife, yeah, thank you, I got it right, reached out that they did receive a $225,000 grant specifically to reduce bear-human conflicts in the area, and that they set aside some of that for Carbondale at $5,000. So he's in touch with, I think, with Lauren and with Chief Wilson about potentially using that. It might go toward, different bear-proof containers or something like that. And there, it sounded kind of similar to the valley-wide effort on watering restrictions. They're going to do a valley-wide kind of, publicity campaign about good practices and all that. So I was glad to hear that and appreciate it. That is all I have. Anything we missed from the board? Okay. Attorney's comments. Lauren? Nothing this evening. Thank you. Okay. Lauren, managers.
Well, I guess first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Jessica Markham, our new, thank you, although they'll probably hear me anyway. Our new town clerk. We were trying to figure out how to do a little demo graphic of one Kathy on one of her shoulders and one Kathy on the other. But haven't figured that out yet.
Nice.
Good Kathy and bad Kathy.
Yes. Careful. But we're very, very happy to have her. And personally, I think she's going to be a great addition to the team. So And many of you may know her already. So she's local. I have been working with Kevin on getting some updates on our installation for our bike share program. And we don't have any real details about that yet, but everything is on schedule. WeCycle is working on renting a shop / office space in Carbondale where they can assemble parts and pieces and also fix bikes when we're at that point. They are working with Public Works on planning for site preparation for the different stations, probably in March or April, depending on the weather. So that's all very exciting. We continue to interview candidates for building official. We have another interview later on this week, and I continue against all odds to be optimistic. And we had our new planner, Kelly Amdur, start yesterday. So things are looking up. She will be here, I believe, at some point during the work session next week to be able to introduce herself to the board. That's all I have.
All right, excellent. Moving on, then, we have a public hearing, transfer of retail marijuana store license, the Green Joint. Applicant is Carbondale Green Joint LLC. Location is 655 Buggy Circle. This is on page 102 of our packet. So we're going to take it on the way.
You're good,
Yeah. Whichever is more comfortable for you.
I want to turn the mic around.
So red is on, yeah, it's swinging around there.
Testing.
There we go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and trustees.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You can just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the application, and we'll see if we have any questions. And we usually ask Kathy to weigh in on these as well.
First of all, I want to make sure you guys know I'm not the reason that Kathy is leaving.
Yeah, we are.
Dan Sullivan, resident of the greater Carbondale area, Missouri Heights for 13.5 years. I will admit that I've taken me this long to be in front of you to open up a store here or do a transfer license. We own the Green Joint. We started as Green Medicine Wellness in the fall of 2009. We're the longest continuous operating family-run business in the marijuana business in the greater Roaring Fork Valley, and I think maybe probably the Western Slope. We currently have 11 licenses in the state. It covers a couple of retail environments that are both medical and retail or adult use. A couple that are currently only retail or adult use, cultivation and some processing that we do with Parachute. So we're Aspen to Parachute kind of spread out throughout. Glenwood was our original flagship store. And so we're about 13.5 years now with this. We're approached by Colorado Product Services to consider taking over their Carbondale location as well as a downtown Glenwood location. And we were able to agree to do something. The industry's having a little bit of a tough time. We've noticed in the rags these days and the news, 20 to 25% down overall. So it's a tough time. We grow our own terrific product, and I like to liken this to a vineyard or a winery of sorts, and we grow stuff, we cure it, we create it, we buy other things from around the state as well, obviously. But we are looking for additional outlets in which to be able to stay financially healthy. It's been a challenge of late, so we're very excited about taking on the Carbondale location. I've always, I think the statistic I recall, when Amendment 64 in 2012 was put to the voters, different communities voted in different ways for or against. And Carbondale, God bless Carbondale, 84% said yes. That's much more than even like an Aspen. It was like 64 or something like that. So I've always had a spot in my heart for Carbondale and being a resident and all that kind of stuff. So we are excited to be here, hopefully with your blessings, and we enjoy a very positive reputation among the communities we work with. I actually sit on the financial advisory board for the city of Glenwood Springs. I currently chair that board. So it's just a great time to continue to try to expand and and get a good footprint and be part of the community for here.
Thanks, Dan. Kathy, did you have anything to add on this application?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Colorado Product Services, I don't think they've been really selling any pot.
Okay.
So I think it would be a welcome, to have a new business that's actually selling
Product.
product.
Yeah, they were more interested in growing and servicing the Front Range with some wholesale products versus store wasn't really the focus. I've been a store guy, so.
Questions from the board?
Yep. One really, how is parking impacted if this used to be just for manufacturing now going to retail?
So the location where we are is on 655 Buggy Circle, so it's just kind of a stone's throw from the car wash, if you will. There's currently 6 or 7 parking spaces in front of the facility. There for the manufactured fused products. This gone dormant, and they are withdrawing those licensing at the state level. I'm not sure, Kathy.
They're expired.
We have an oversupply situation in the state, both from cultivation and processing. So I probably would estimate for a few years, it will continue to be dormant, that space. We at some point might wish to relocate to a different area, something a little bit more the beaten path, so to speak. It's although we back up to 133, it's not as ideal as I would prefer. I like a location like that, and then we're right on Brand and 11. You get to see us all the time. It's right by not only tumbling.
Any other questions from the board? It's not a public hearing, so we can entertain a motion.
It is a public hearing.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it says right there in bold print.
I think you said it. You said it was a public hearing.
It is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this transfer of retail marijuana store license? Or anyone online? Raise your Zoom hand if so.
Nobody online.
Nobody online? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Get back to that motion.
Move to approve for Green Joints transfer of ownership application.
Second.
Motion by Luis, second by Marty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it. Kathy. Take care, Kathy.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
I'll try not to be too much of a pain in the butt. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just scrolling down to our next item, which is special event liquor license for Carbondale Arts. All right. You can just sit at the table there, it's fine, or you can just tell us a little bit about the event. This is always just an opportunity to sort of promote your event, if anybody's watching out there, and then you consider the license.
Great, thanks everybody for having me here. We have the Green is the New Black Fashion Extravaganza, March 9th to 11th. We'll be right here at the rec center, where we will transform it into Fashion Week, basically for Carbondale. We're really excited. We expect there to be about 600 people on Friday and Saturday night. On Thursday night, maybe a slightly smaller crowd. It's been our dress rehearsal night in previous years, but this year, I think in maybe the last 2 years that we did it, it got kind of more and more formal and more like the regular show. So Thursday night should be more like a real show, and we're treating it as such. It's like a preview. There'll be all local designers and artists and models, all the fun stuff you guys all know. So let's see, the liquor license portion of it, we're hoping to sell beer and wine on Thursday night and have kind of a full cocktail scenario and Saturday along with beer and wine.
And I see you wrote that you have hired and volunteer security at entrance and exit points. And I know that this was kind of going through the process as you were working with Chief Wilson on our new requirements for hard security. Can you just tell us how that worked out with this?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, we're following the town recommendations and what Eric and I worked together, so. They had the security for us and the recommended numbers for those nights. And we're planning on as such, and we'll still have our additional volunteer security that we've had in previous years.
Most importantly, are there still tickets available? And if so, how do people buy them?
Oh, right, thank you. Maria. There are still tickets for Thursday night. You can get them by going to our website, carbondalarts.com. But Friday and Saturday night are completely out.
Eric, anything to add on this one?
No, it's great to have this event back in the facility, so yeah, it's gonna be great, and according to our numbers, they'll have 3 paid security guards on that Thursday night and then 4 on Friday and Saturday night. And that was really, those numbers were brought to us by professional security companies, how they would like to secure the facility. So that's just those ratios.
Great, thank you.
I will add, I don't know how it's been in previous years, but we are making sure that the bar supervisors are all tips trained and ready to go on all that.
Any other questions?
Can I make a motion?
Go for it.
To make a motion to approve the special event liquor license, Carbondale Arts Greenest New Black Fashion Show. Welcome back.
Second. Motion by Marty, second by Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, thank you guys.
Nice to see you. All right, and another special event liquor license up next for the Aspen City. Hi, you can just introduce yourself as well. We've got to meet recently, so it's nice to see you here. Glad to have the Aspen Science Center in town. You can tell us a little bit about the organization, and because you're new to town, I think, and this is a good opportunity to sort of introduce yourself to the community and then about the event, and then we'll consider the application.
As far as new to town,
Well, the Aspen Science Center being at Third Street Center, right?
okay. Yeah, the Aspen Science Center is a nonprofit. And we are proud to bring the science out to the community. We're working with children as well as adults, which is what this is about. And we are sort of like a traveling science center of sorts, as well as we offer science out of the Third Street Center, but we work from Aspen to Parachute. And so we have quite a fun organization. The Aspen Science Center has actually been around for about 16 years, but as far as a home base, it's been Carbondale just in the last since 19, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And tell us just a little bit about this event.
So this event is called the Hometown Science Cafe Series. And we are featuring, I'm going to read it just so I don't mess this up. We are featuring conversations with our very own community experts and scientists. Each cafe offers an intimate chance to delve into a scientific topic with a local expert and ask questions. This is an opportunity to learn, share, and be curious with your community. So out of the Third Street Center, we're hosting 3 of 5 series. And we're going to kick it off with Sarah Johnson, who's done several others in the past, I guess, but she's just quite great. So invite you all to come listen to her, as well as we have Philip Halliwell from the CMC and Amanda Peterson. She did it with 3 Focus Kids, and they all have their own topics. And it's just a 1 hour get together, come and talk, hear what they say. We'd like to offer beer and wine, as well as non-alcoholic drinks, and just some little bar snack things. So short and sweet, and we invite you all to come. You can go to our website, aspensciencecenter.org, and pick which one you want to go to or come down.
Great. Thank you for that overview.
Sure.
Any questions from the board? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the liquor license for the Aspen Science Center, February 23rd, March 9th, and March 16th. Okay.
Motion by Erica, second by Lonnie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Darren.
Happy Valentine's Day.
So they're teaching kids to code for free at the library.
That's awesome.
For free at the
I
library.
mean, that
Thank you for
is,
bringing that up.
I just think it's the greatest thing I've heard in a really long time as far as.
Yeah, we're doing it in Aspen and Basalt and Carbondale, out of all the libraries as well as the Aspen Youth Center. And hopefully gonna branch into a little bit further into Garfield County and work out of Glenwood coding clubs, which has been a big success for us. So
That's awesome.
very exciting, different avenues of science. Pardon me?
I said, thank you. That's an awesome project.
Yeah,
Engaging kids in something positive.
Yeah.
I'll hold them well for the future.
yeah, that's good. Thanks again.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right, moving right along, next item on the agenda is the Main Street Marketplace Restoration Security Reduction. Hi, Jared.
There's a lot of books, yeah.
These are all for you guys.
Yoo-hoo.
No, I was gonna email and ask for them.
These are your copies. In 2 weeks, we'll have a quiz on what's on page 37.
I love quizzes.
Heard that about you.
Main Street Marketplace, correct?
Yep.
Alrighty, so before you all tonight is a request from Soper's Engineering on behalf of Crystal River Marketplace, who's the owner of the property, to reduce the restoration security for Lot 1 Carbondale Marketplace. So in 2019, a development improvements agreement with an associated ordinance was approved by the trustees for Lot 1 Carbondale Marketplace, also known as Main Street Marketplace. Section 15 of that DIA sets forth 2 types of security, one for the public improvements and one for restoration. The request before you tonight is only for the restoration security portion. It's not for the public improvements security portion. So the DIA required a restoration security of $100,000, which was based on an estimate of the cost to restore and reclaim 67% of the land area in Lot 1. The DIA also allows the developer to request 3 separate reductions in the security, one to 75% of the initial amount upon completion of 3 buildings and all associated site restoration requirements. The second to 50% on completion of 5 buildings, and the third to 25% on completion of 8 buildings. So as of today, buildings A and B have received COs. Building C has received a TCO and is awaiting permitting for their solar system installation. Buildings L and K are under construction. Buildings H and J are permitted, and buildings F and G have been submitted for permit review. So needless to say, the construction is moving along. Soper's Engineering has requested the reduction in the restoration security from $100,000 to $75,000 or 75%. Their request highlights the completions of buildings A, B, and C, as well as the restoration of all the disturbed areas during constructions associated with those buildings. After reviewing the request and performing the site inspection, staff agrees with the applicant's assessment that the buildings are complete and the associated site improvements have been completed. So therefore, staff is recommending that the restoration security be reduced as outlined in the DIA to 75% or $75,000. The remaining letter of credit will remain in place until a future request to reduce the letter of credit pursuant to the DIA occurs. Happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Questions about that one?
I guess the defined restoration is just soil loss, essentially.
Exactly. Anything damaged, sidewalks, soil, landscaping, things like that.
Not restoration of the original native habitat.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. If there's no more questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the reduction in the restoration security for Main Street Marketplace to $75,000.
Motion by Erica, second by Lonnie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thanks, Jared. It's like this next one's probably yours too, huh?
It is.
Carbondale Center Place, Lot 1, security reduction.
So thank you. Before you tonight is a request from Sopris Engineering on behalf of Loge Properties, the owner of the property, to reduce the security for the public improvements for Lot 1 Carbondale Center Place. A subdivision improvement agreement and associated ordinances were approved by the trustees for Lot 1. Section 15 of that SIA requires the owners to provide security for completion of the public improvements associated with Lot 1 and to ensure proper demolition of the Sopris Shopping Center, which existed on the site before this development. A cash security was provided on April 21st, 2021 in the amount of $445,000, $218.95. It's important to note that of this amount, $295,453.95 were for the public improvements. The remaining $149,765 were for the building demolition. The SIA allows the developer to apply for 2 partial releases of the security as construction progresses, but does state that no more than 90% of the original costs of the public improvement shall be released prior to the completion and acceptance of all public improvements. So a first amendment to the SIA for Lot 1 allowed for some of these public improvements to be completed as part of the Colorado Avenue Sewer Project. That sewer project was completed in spring of 2021, and the town received reimbursement from the developer for the associated public improvements. Subsequent to that, a security reduction of $310,511.30 was approved. So currently, the remaining security for the public improvements is $134,707.65. Hope my math is still correct. So the Sopris Shopping Center has been demolished, construction has proceeded, and most of the public improvements have been installed pursuant to the SIA. The only remaining uncompleted public improvements are the required landscaping, which should occur this spring, and the replacement of a street light at the corner of Colorado Ave and 133, which the developers are working on. Sopris Engineering is requesting a second reduction in the security of $121,150.15 for remaining security of $13,557.50, which is for the uncompleted work. Staff has reviewed and inspected the required public improvements and notes that all are complete with the exception of those noted previously. So pursuant to the SIA, staff is recommending that the security be reduced to 10% of the completed public improvements from the original SIA, plus the remaining work for a remaining security of $41,747.14. This security will remain in place until all public improvements are completed and their warranty periods have passed. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this application.
President of the board?
Yep.
What is the warranty period on the landscaping?
2 years.
Okay, so this would stay in effect for the 2 years till that warranty period is passed.
Correct.
My only concern is I don't wanna, they're throwing some landscaping. Okay, it's done, give them back the money. Then a year from now, that landscaping doesn't thrive because of whatever reason, placement, irrigation, whatever, we don't have recourse. So we do have recourse for that warranty period.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear on that.
And I will note that this is their second permitted security reduction. So pursuant to the SIA,
So
they
there's
can't
no-
request any additional reductions.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'll move to approve the reduction in security for lot one of Carbondale Center Plaza, or place rather, to $41,747.14.
Motion by Marty, second by Lonnie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Jared. Those are always a little bit complicated, but also straightforward, and I think we have a lot of faith in our engineers that go out and inspect it, and Kevin's opinion that it's been done to our standards, so thank you for bringing them to us.
And I'll leave these over there for you guys.
Okay. Great, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're quite a bit ahead of schedule.
I'm just texting CLEER.
Yeah, we should take a quick break and look at the rest of the agenda.
Okay.
So it's 7:04, let's come back and do that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Some light reading.
So they have it.
I'm like pretty thin, but I need to see. Late birthday present.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I think he's already gotten. Because he was reading off of something different than his memo. The memo that's in the packet, so it's not like abbreviated. So. I feel so bad about that little boy. I've never done that, but I'm pretty convinced I didn't. He was so adorable. I just wanted to take him home. And he wasn't like, he didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't like face him.
No, he's like, I'm not sure he really knew what he was doing.
Oh, maybe.
His parents were like getting dressed up to go to this meeting.
His mother was like so chill. I'm just like, where does he go to school? I could have really messed up, but he's not, he was not fazed in the least bit.
Yeah,
And,
that's awesome.
So is your business in Delta?
Yes,
So do you go over there every day? What do you do? So you
I get to work from home. most
Wow.
times.
And what's your brother, is your brother over there?
No, we've hired somebody locally over there. So he's there every day. And then, our other business partner is Jake DeWolf. He grew up here as well.
What's his name?
Jake DeWolf.
Is it like Nick DeWolf's kid? Not Nick DeWolf, from Aspen?
Don't remember his dad's name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he from Carbondale?
Well, actually, they moved down. He's younger than me. His older brother is my grade.
You
Yeah,
know?
I can remember.
Nick DeWolf. Yeah, well, Nick DeWolf is, but Nick.
This is better, Jake. Or no, it's Jake DeWolf.
Jake,
who- Yes, Nick DeWolf might be the dad.
Nick
Yeah.
DeWolf would be really super old. I mean, he was older than.
Yeah, might not be.
He's the guy, Nick DeWolf is the guy who did the dancing water fountain in Aspen.
Oh, cool.
You know, the one that goes up and down?
Yeah.
So he works over there all the time?
We haul septic waste over there because we turn that into compost. So he has a semi that's this color that he drives by, goes up over in the core. And he does.
I haven't
not,
seen him. I
like-
better watch out. Don't want to hit
I was
him.
gonna say.
I'd be covered in
When you see,
caca.
you'll notice, it. Yeah.
Well, CHT, yours, branch, or is that a, you got franchise?
No, that's us.
What does it stand for? You don't think it's.
It stands for, oh God. what's it- Well, it's a Navy term, so it's chit is the playful term, but it stands for, containment, holding, and transfer. I think it's containment. It's how the Navy refers to their septic waste. Their back barriers. And so their teams who work on it are the big teams.
Okay.
And my brother was in the Navy. He was on the aircraft carrier and he was on the chit team.
Ah,
And so he's always wanted to have a business named
that shit.
Yeah.
Do you get, do you get your stuff like from BNR?
I take in cost.
Like you're emptying out, like I have a septic system.
Right, most of it's from my brother's company. It's AVO, All Valley Resource.
Good to know.
But we do not have DNRs mixed yet. So
What do they do with theirs?
so you can take septic to South Canyon landfill or Garfield County landfill. But sometimes they, like right now, I don't know if they're accepting, they'll take off the clothes. And we'll take it year round and we'll haul it for you if you've got a tank here. So we also do rifle rotor rooter.
But he's bringing us back and then.
So then you turn it into compost and what do you do with it?
Right.
We will sell it eventually, but right now.
You're just piling it up?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we have a lot of piles. Of all kinds of things.
So you have a bunch of land over there?
We do, yeah.
Nice.
And so the place we bought was an existing compost facility. And
Chase one.
we're already, we've done 4 times as much business as them.
Wow.
Just bringing in waste. And then, we needed more yard waste, so we started accepting yard waste for free. So you need to have really good compost, you want to mix your human waste.
And like.
Lax. Ours are black, with yard waste. And we also get biosolids from the city of Montrose and from Telluride. So that's what comes out of the wastewater treatment plant, you can clean water and biosolids. So
Where do you get the yard waste from?
right now, so we're just down the road from the Delta County landfill. So they they charge people to dump it and we take it for free. So they send people to us right now. We get it mostly from landscaping.
So they're bypassing themselves and sending them straight to you and
Yeah,
not.
because they don't do anything, they just throw it and they're running out of room, so they'd rather something better would be done with it. Yeah.
So now they're redoing this work.
Like, I know. For permit.
What is, do you know what, like, when they do the yard waste over here? Do you know what they do with that?
They take it up to the county. The county uses it as compost. It's fun. Learning a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great having your own business.
I really like it.
Yeah. Got a lot of flexibility, kind of, you know. So you may probably work harder than you would normally working for somebody else. I don't know, right?
Yeah, well, and then you
But
like,
it's
just
filling.
kind of do things when they need to get done too. But then it's
Right, cool.
It's a beautiful animal. Ancient building.
I just hate to like vote on something in the morning.
Do you think anybody's gonna show up for the late or the bag fee discussion? I haven't heard. It's been
Yeah.
so quiet. So, yeah.
Now a free ride.
You haven't had any phone calls or anything,
Yeah.
have you? Not one?
Just have to work harder and longer.
Have to get a job there.
And then that's what Ben's concern was, is that if we go forward and we do it early, then, you know, 5 people show up at 7:40.
So then does he want to move the integrated weed management?
He could, Eric's here.
Freaking worse places. But if we think our
Hey, Ben,
house prices are
Do you want-
expensive. People should.
do you want me to ask Eric to come and do the weed management plan first?
If nobody else is in on that, like we don't need.
I don't think so. I'll check real quick.
It's pretty much done every year, so
Yeah, I didn't know. Sometimes when Barcelona, somebody comes.
she moved, I heard. Over to Paonia. Gwen Garcelon.
So everybody's aware, I'm just trying to manage the agenda so that we don't go talk about the bag stuff and then a bunch of business owners show up right after that. So, it's at 7:40 and we're pretty far ahead, so. We don't think there's gonna be a big crowd for that. We haven't really heard from anybody who's planning on coming, but.
I've heard.
Yeah, I thought we heard. Well, we saw an email. We didn't know if anybody's coming in person. people do not seem to be up in arms about it, but if Eric can do his thing, maybe he can go home early. Win-win.
Well, let's just acknowledge it was Raleigh's birthday. Was it last week, Raleigh? Sunday.
Happy birthday,
Raleigh.
Happy birthday.
Oh, he's like our honorary trustees.
And in full disclosure, I read about him so for Sunday.
It's on the front page.
No, it was a little bit more so.
Here it comes.
What do you think, Eric? Let's do this now and you can go home early.
That'll work. That'll work.
Hopefully you weren't thinking you'd prepare for it over the next hour and a half.
The cram section.
My PowerPoint's not done.
Okay, so we are on page 206. Kind of hard to see on there. I believe with the integrated weed management plan. This is one of those things that we see every year, so it's kind of routine. It's really complicated. So I think if we can just kind of hit the highlights, especially it sounds like the nature park is maybe the main thing.
You bet. You know, we've been working hard at this for many years. I am happy to report that some of our integrated weed management plan techniques are working, you know, and at least holding some of the, you know, BC, you know, noxious weeds that we have in our park land space and our open space parks at bay at least, you know, so we are seeing some success. So I don't want to be the Debbie Downer. I want to let you know we are seeing some success with flipping the script, with putting, you know, chemical-based herbicide use last on the list of our toolbox, right? So we are seeing some successes. So I'm happy to report that. But then we are seeing some challenging parks too, you know, that definitely are. We've tried a lot of different things in these parks, and we're not going to stop what we're doing, but we're to a point in a couple of our parks where we really have to take a hard look at using some chemical-based herbicides and using them wisely and using them in, you know, with consultation, people who use them a lot more than we do, with training our staff to safely use them also. So that's in process also. But we are at a point, and I don't like saying this, and I've never wanted to be here because I had faith in the integrated, you know, weed management system and how to take care of some of our noxious weeds with all the different techniques we've been using. But some of them are beating us and putting us in a situation where we probably have to do something, or we're going to be going further and further and further behind, and they're going to be winning the battle. And really, that's with a couple A and B and C listers on the Colorado noxious weed list, but mainly Canada thistle is really a beast that all of our techniques have not been very successful at all. And one of our biggest, you know, park spaces, you know, the acreage down at the nature park, you know, it's really a huge pasture really that we're trying to manage, and it gets disturbed soils because of the human use down there, and the four-legged use down there too. And so it's a place that's pretty ripe for Canada thistle to take over the whole park. Steve Anthony with the Garfield, you know, weed, I think I forget his exact title, weed advisory. I can't remember his exact title, but you know, he's had his eye on this stuff for a long time. And so, you know, walking around down there with him and Mark Duff, who's a biologist who is super educated on plants, you know, they kind of convinced me that, yeah, unless we you know, at least try something different than we're doing, we are gonna, you know, have a big problem down in that park and not be good neighbors to anybody around that park either. So this plan is one of the first years that I am requesting, the use of the chemical-based herbicide down there. We'll do some, we've done some research on what to use, when to use it. And so that is part of this plan that we're asking for you guys to approve tonight. The other kind of issues we have are baseball field infields. They really got taken over by some rising bindweed that kind of got ahead of us during COVID when we weren't using those fields and all. And so we're not yet going to use chemical-based herbicide in that, because that's a spot where kids play. And so we are going to try to utilize a little bit different technique, just since we don't want anything to grow in that dirt in the infield. We're gonna hyper saturate it with like a mag chloride, and then after we do that, we're gonna first of all we'll rip all the organic material out of there using our tractor. That's needed now. We're to that point on those infields, and get all that organic material out, lay down the mag, and then lay down a top dress of new ball field infield dirt. So it will bury it. And so hopefully that technique's going to work without using any, stronger chemical-based herbicide. And then, our strategy on the nature park is really to isolate, the areas where we've seen some pretty rapid and intense growth of the Canada thistle down there. Fence them off once in the early spring and apply the chemical-based herbicide. We'll utilize all of our public information that we need to put out according to our integrated weed management plan throughout this process. So we will have some public information. We won't be doing that without letting everybody know what we're doing and what we're using, what the return or the rates are of dissipation and all those things that the data sheets will provide for us, and we'll share that with the public. And so our technique, I think, will be hitting it early in the spring, and we'll still hopefully have the opportunity to burn that part, because that's been one of our techniques that worked pretty well down there when we had staff and the weather's cooperated with. We didn't burn it last year because it was dry and high winds in that time when we were going to do it. So we'll continue with all those other techniques, but we do want to then reapply a secondary chemical-based herbicide in the late fall too. So it'd be a two times we'd be utilizing the chemical-based herbicides on that park in large areas of that park. So I want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. And what hopefully we'll see, we really think that in 2 to 3 years of this technique, we can get control and then really work hard on the re-veg piece here. So that's how we're going to get rid of the cannabis down there is to have once we start to see the success of this work, to re-veg the heck out of those areas and try to compete it out. So that's kind of the ask tonight from the board, as you guys are active our weed management board. Yeah, and I'm open for any questions on. There's a lot of data in here, but the basic real message I wanted to get is we've tried a lot, and we're going to keep doing all of that we've tried, the non-chemical based techniques, but we are at a point where we need to try something different on a couple of. Yes, sir. Questions from the board? Mike?
I think first every time, I don't know. The chemical-based herbicides, they are non-toxic to animals, to dogs, cattle, etc.
They each the ones we're going to use would be Open Site and Milestone, and so in your packet they were kind of the best explanation of how they work. Came from Steve Anthony is, well, when we did consult with them about, you know, what would work on our issue down there. And so he definitely, provided us with, you know, kind of, here's what I would do, he said, and this will help get you ahead of this issue, he really thought. Trying to find it. So each one, you know, they're chemical-based herbicides, so they're not safe. That's why they're on the bottom of our list. But there's a safe manner to use them, I guess is the best way to put that. So we're gonna train our staff on how to be safe in using them. We're gonna isolate those locations with some fencing so dogs can't access them, but it's.
And as always, you're gonna publicize that you'll be using herbicides in a particular area at a particular time. Okay, thank you. That was my only, I mean, this isn't a question, but a comment is I've known you've tried to do everything in all the years I've worked with you in Parks and Rec and as a trustee. I know this is like a last resort for you. So, and I appreciate that. And I think the public should be aware of that. This is not done lightly or with that thought. But we have tried every way to mitigate the weeds that we could think of. And if this is where we're at, this is where we're at.
And I really want to emphasize, we're not stopping all those other techniques either, you know, when you look at in this report I gave you, you know, it really laid out all the different volunteer groups that we link up with for the manual extraction days, you know, when that stuff pops up. And that's working, you know, it is holding all that at bay with manual extraction. So with no product whatsoever, just sweat the tear count. So that is working. We're not going to stop any of those relationships that we have. And we're going to continue to do that. So.
Thanks, Eric. Other questions from the board? Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
I think I mentioned this, last time, goats. I know RAFTA has a lot of success on the right of way now, different environment, totally get it. And I'm not against applying these if that's what we need to do, but I don't know if that's been tried. I know it's not easy. But we do have someone who comes every summer and they eat everything. And I don't know, I think that a lot of people might go, well, why don't we do this, right? And might get more people to go out there and pull Canadian thistle, you know, on a volunteer day. Because I think a lot of people might be really reluctant to want to have these things be used, even though I'm okay with letting staff go forward and use them wisely because we don't want to lose the park. But something like, hey, we tried goats, look at them, there they are, and all our dogs are barking at them, but it doesn't seem to bother them. I don't know, it just seems like if we could try that as one last alternative, I think it could be wise.
Yeah, and that's been brought up a lot. You know, we've looked at where that would be an appropriate use. And I'm having a hard time finding where it would be an appropriate use.
Okay.
You know, our bike park's obviously not a good spot. Nooch Park is, you know, we're trying to really grow those native grasses there and being fairly successful at it. So I hate to decimate those in the process.
Okay.
Because they'll eat it all. They aerate and they fertilize at the same time, so they're amazing, but they eat it all. And so we're really trying to outcompete the noxious weeds by, you know, that rebed side. So that's my issue with that. And maybe, you know, maybe on the Canada thistle, if we isolated a group on the Canada thistle and then rebed after, that's still a possibility, I think. So
Just encourage us to explore that option. I don't think people are going to be very excited about big signs saying we are spraying today.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think we all are on the same page. It's just the realities of noxious weeds are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try whatever we can. That's safe.
And we might, there's still some opportunity though, like our RV park, I mean, that might be a perfect spot for some goats to be, because, prior to opening that up, they could be out there, right? And so we're still not deaf to that idea.
I mean, then you gotta find them, you gotta bring them here.
Pay for them. It's not
Thanks.
So these are EPA approved herbicides, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that, that gives you something, some kind of backing.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding is I don't remember what I did before as soon as this material dries, then it's no longer toxic to anyone or, human or animal that would tread on it.
Right, yeah, it has a dissipation rate.
Yeah, and you just have to be careful about the wind direction and you can't do it right before it rains, obviously, kind of thing. Okay, gotcha. But as long as there's that cushion to stand on that it is an EPA approved herbicide, and then, call out some of the things that make it such, it might soften the impression of having to use this technique on these noxious critters. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll target spray too, it's not a blanket spray, it's a target spray, backpack sprayers, methodically walking around the park inside the fenced in zone and hitting just the plants were out there, so.
Yeah, they're pretty deeply rooted though, aren't they? The community,
And that's exactly why we kind of need to do this. These are systemic herbicides that get into the plant itself. And all of the techniques we've used with the non-chemical based are non-systemic. And hopefully someday somebody will develop a 100% organic, systemic, natural herbicide that kills the plant from the inside out. Versus outside energy. It's just like the natural stuff, all it does is, the burn down herbicides takes off the protective coating and lets the sun burn them down, but you don't kill the plant, it comes back.
well, we tried digging them out and all it does is make them angry and you get 3 times as many as you started. So, yeah,
That's the issue with Canada, this
yeah,
for sure.
I got it.
Any other questions? I just quick update on the weed steamer. That's something we invested in a few years ago, and I saw it as 0% effective on the chart there, but hopefully there's something I missed. So how's it going with the weed steamer?
The Carl's been using it, a lot, in our many of our hold out gardens and everything. So they use that judiciously and those, and it's working there.
Okay.
It's having staff and access. Probably too, that we're lacking in utilizing that to its full potential.
And just building on all these questions about, we know that there's going to be a public response to the signs and the fences and all that. What's your estimate on how long the fencing will be up, for example, in the nature park?
I think what we're going to have to do there, because the Canada thistle is in a lot of different areas of the park. So I think we're gonna have to do some multiple fencing, pods down there. Probably for, I would say 2 weeks. Okay, yeah. And then that'd be in the springtime and then also in the fall. Okay, late fall.
And through the public information, we can always let people know, if you don't want to be around that, then you don't have to come to the park for those 2 weeks. You had mentioned that the other alternative would be to try to close it altogether. Which would have, even bigger impacts. I would just add that I think it's really remarkable that we have such a plan, right? I think a lot of communities don't do anything like this. They just go out and spray stuff all the time. And our community values this approach, but there's an ecological consequence to letting something like Canada thistle take over the grassland, and there's a consequence to using herbicides. So I think we're doing it as carefully and thoughtfully and minimally as possible. And seems like it's the last resort, but there we are. Okay.
Unless there's any other questions or comments from the board, I think we need a motion to adopt the lost on my agenda here, the integrated weed management plan for the year. Is that right?
I would move to adopt the integrated weed management plan for 2023.
Second.
Motion by Erica, second by Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get control. Some of these crazy months.
Those Canadian crystals down.
All right, well, let's back up a little bit, back to item number 12, which was listed as 740 and now it's 734. So I feel comfortable going ahead with that, which is ordinance number 2, series of 2023, the disposable bag fee. Lauren, is this one yours?
It is. It is a continuation of the review that we did at the last meeting. All we have done to the ordinance is change some dates to keep it at January 1st, 2024. I will say, and you know this, Ben, from our conversation earlier today, and all the dates that Mark and I changed, we missed one. So, so on section 77-10 under definitions, subparagraph B at the very bottom, it says this definition of grocer shall sunset and be of no further force and effect after July 1st. That should say January 1st, and the ordinance that is in your signature packet is corrected. But that's really the only other change. What we did, and I put some things on people's desks. Last week, we went through our entire list of businesses that pay sales tax, picked out the ones that we could tell would probably be subject to some changes in the bag fee, and emailed them directly with an announcement that this was coming, that the board was discussing it, that it's an attempt to sort of marry the requirements of the new state regulation with our current regulation, and invited those businesses to come and be heard or make comments, what have you, at this meeting. And then we also coordinated with the chamber. And yesterday, and you'll see, pardon me for a second, Erica, this document that has paragraphs on the front, little chart on the back. The chamber sent that to their entire mailing list yesterday. We're just trying to make sure that people know that this is coming. Interestingly, I think a lot of us thought that we would get a lot of phone calls, maybe have a bunch of people show up here wanting to talk about this. It has been extremely quiet. We did get one email from a Main Street business owner, and I got a question in passing from a merchant yesterday or Friday, and that's it. I don't think the town clerk heard anything from anyone, so that was a little bit surprising.
Well, thanks. It was important to us that we get the information out, and we don't have something that's going to impact our local businesses without hearing from them, but it doesn't seem like there's big concerns. You've been working with the chamber.
Right, I brought it up at the chamber meeting, and then I sent out a reminder today in the packet, and I even pulled the memo into its own PDF, so we're gonna have to go to page 171. And the only question I got from a liquor store owner was just, can you just help me understand the dates? So I know when I need to start charging people. That was it, so.
It doesn't apply to boxes, which some of the liquor store
Right,
uses.
yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, and so I think when it does pass, maybe if there is, like a clear, and maybe that was part of this, maybe something clearer, where it's just like, here are the dates you need to be aware of, or action taken.
We can do that. We can do that in
Something
PSA
like that.
as well.
And our hands are tied to a certain extent. If we do nothing, then the 10-cent state law goes into effect, and all we're doing is making it consistent with our existing fee of 20 cents instead of 10, and applying it to all stores under the general retail category rather than splitting it up by how many branches they have and whether they're only in Colorado. And it doesn't apply to restaurants, as we discussed last time, to take that one.
Happy to answer any questions.
Thoughts? I mean, we've definitely had support from members of our community, and the e-board has been vocal on this. You know, pre-COVID, we were embarking on a plastics reduction plan and looking at expanding the bag ban. We had a little bit of pushback then. It seems like times have changed and people are ready for it, and the state's moved on it. So it seems like it's pretty straightforward.
All right, want to make a motion?
You're right.
I would move to approve.
Make the motion, I'll second.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2, series 2023, and ordinance of the town of Carbondale, amending Article 7, Chapter 7 of the Carbondale Revised Municipal Code regarding carry-out bag regulations, with the date change mentioned by Lauren, which I now lost on page section 7.7.10, paragraph B.
Second.
Motion by Erica, second by Marty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll keep putting that together. Thanks, Mark, for the research and compilation of, you know, various ways that different municipalities have kind of made this local. Appreciate it. All right. We are now ready for CLEER. And we're glad that we texted you both. Scheduled. And we did, so Zuleika and Heidi, feel free to join us at the table here.
Bless you.
We did decide to bump up the Garfield Clean Energy Goals adoption to first and then do Workplan second. So I think we have
You should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
we all have a printout here. Yeah.
I just want to mention I have a conflict on this, I'm not the Garfield County one, but I think the second one.
Okay.
And I can lead or I can participate. I don't think it's a budgetary discussion.
No,
So
I don't think there's a, yeah.
Married to the what director of.
When it comes to the CLEER discussion, I did talk to Mark earlier, I still am on and listed as an employee and work less than 10 hours a month for CLEER. So I'll leave for the CLEER discussion. All right.
You want to leave or just not vote? I
Yeah.
don't see why you have to leave. You just not vote.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because I
Okay.
actually really
Yeah.
appreciate your perspective on these issues, and it's, with Mark's counsel, my understanding is that you've done what you needed to do, you've disclosed it, we can discuss whether we feel that there's a conflict, and if you feel like you can act in an unbiased way, then you don't, there's no statute or ordinance saying you have to leave, is that right?
Well, that's right, but if there's gonna be the town taking action, then financially, too clear with CLEER having financial ties to Erica, then I think the recusal is certainly appropriate.
Okay.
If you want to let her, or if you'd like to stay and participate in the discussion, I'm not sure if I understand what the action item is any tonight.
We are asking for any sort of note.
This is just an update.
Yeah,
the way
so there's no formal action taken, therefore there's no issue.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'd like to have your expertise in.
Oh, gorilla.
discussion.
We are presenting our scope of work for 2023, so it's more than just an update, but I don't think we're asking you to
Approve it.
yeah,
I'm not
approve
giving
it.
you money tonight.
I don't
We've
think
already
so.
mentioned.
If you want to.
If you want to, then I'll leave.
I wasn't planning on sharing my screen for the GCE goals, but if you would like me to, I'm happy to. It's up- you guys should all have it.
Did you say they're on page 204?
204.
204, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's just start there.
Okay, great. So this shouldn't hopefully be new for any of you. Garfield Clean Energy approved these goals at the end of last year. These are They came together through a community process with people from across the county. And these were identified as areas and realistic goals, realistic but also ambitious to reduce our impacts on climate change. So I don't know that it says that anywhere specifically for the BCE, but that's the idea. And we are asking member municipalities that if they're comfortable to also adopt these as goals for each municipality, that it would just help the whole region move forward. And so do you guys want me to go over each of them? I'm just not sure how much you are familiar with them. We did present them last fall as well.
As our current rep, the GTE, I've briefed the board on these as we worked through it, but we haven't really had a discussion about them. So I think a quick highlight of each one would be helpful.
Yeah, so there are 5 goals, in 5 different sectors. So the first one is in energy savings. We want to reduce energy consumption in the built environment by 12%. And we were told by the utilities that this is exceedingly ambitious, but we believe we can do it. And we're spending a lot of time at CLEER, of course, and GCE thinking about how we can do it. The carbon-free electricity goal of 100% carbon-free electricity by 2030. And I should say these are by 2030. All of these goals are from a baseline of 2019 to 2030. Clean mobility, increase the share of zero emissions EVs to 15% of registered vehicles and support alternative fuels and alternatives to driving. A greenhouse gas emissions goal of reducing emissions from electricity by 100%. That goes back to the clean electricity, and emissions from natural gas by 10%. And the economic development and jobs goal of harnessing the clean energy transition for the benefit of Garfield County while addressing any negative impacts. And so, like I said, these were put together through a community process and adopted by GCE as a collaborative. And we hope that the town of Carbondale will also take these on as goals.
I think an advantage to us taking these on is that it aligns us because the county can't get there, right, without all the member jurisdictions getting there. And then, we've heard, I think, from the e-board and others that our climate action plan has a goal that's decades out, and it's hard. We don't have a really clear kind of stair step and keeping ourselves on track toward that. So 2030 may sound far out. That's 7 years from now. It's going to go by really fast. So, I think it's great to have a plan that's in the near term, and that's tied to these. And then whatever we're doing on the local level, we can say, how are we helping achieve these goals? Yep.
And I think the other benefit it brings is, as Garfield Clean Energy, pursues potentially state grants or federal grants, they're able to reference, maybe if they're going to go after that grant, look, it helps us meet this goal that all these communities have adopted. And it was really in the original creation of Garfield Clean Energy, all the intergovernmental agreements that all of us signed on to, there was also each community adopted those GCE targets at that time. That was in 2010.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool way to update it. And these are even better than what they were in 2010. Because these are just more specific. And I do think 12% is achievable despite what the utilities say. Because keep in mind, the built environment is also our building codes. So when we improve our building codes, we help reduce energy consumption in the built environment. And then there's still loads of opportunity in our existing buildings. So 12% seems doable. We're not like saying something crazy like, all energy cut in half or something. Like 12% seems really doable. And then I really like the update on the clean mobility and taking advantage of actually having data of the registered vehicles. Because in the past it was based on kind of CDOT traffic numbers. So it was a really big number to try and pursue. So I think this is a really good update.
So we want to do the conversation. Other thoughts, questions?
I see 15% zero emission EVs.
Mhm.
What percent do we have currently? We know.
Gosh, I don't know that number right off the top of my head. I do know the actual number of vehicles, like it's about 530 registered
For the
EV
town,
for
county.
the county. That's
How many
the,
registered vehicles are there in the county?
I don't. Sorry.
I mean, because my
Also-
question is, if it's 500 and there are 50,000, and we're at 1%.
Mhm.
I think that's about right. I mean, I think there's 60-some thousand people in the county, so that's kind of the ballpark I was thinking of. It's-
So I'm just trying to get a perspective of
Yeah.
where we're at and where we're trying to go.
They do
I
have
can
that data.
definitely, yeah, sorry, I can definitely go find that.
Okay, no, I was just trying to get a feel.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Where are we trying to go? I mean, I think that number's gonna go up exponentially in the next 7 years.
Mhm.
And Juan and I have spoken that the number of EV charging stations. It's kind of like, you gotta have the charging stations, because it doesn't do any good to have an EV. You don't have a place to charge it.
And that's where we can help, right? Because we can't make people buy the car, but we can help build the infrastructure, so.
Well, people won't look at buying the car if they know people who have them. They know people having problems taking long distance trips, finding charging stations. I mean, that's,
We did buy gas cars when there were no gas stations. We're getting there.
Other questions before the board? Anybody have any concerns about adopting these goals? You seem very much in line with what we're trying to do. Maybe just, we'll vote in just a moment, but, I think Newcastle has adopted them.
Yep.
Is any other member yet?
I don't think so, no, but I don't think it's been brought to any other boards specifically for adoption yet.
Okay.
I don't think it's been brought to any boards and then makes it decline to do it.
I read a little bit in the paper about the conversation with Garfield County. Does it feel like that's a possibility that they might come around and adopt them, or did it feel like they were not quite ready?
Oh, I actually did not get that update from Morgan.
To have it, to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. It was adopted, these goals were adopted by everyone who was present at the Garfield County Clean Energy meeting, but not every jurisdiction was present. And so I don't want to say it was unanimous, but not everybody was there. But Garfield County was represented and did it. Well, if there's no further discussion, somebody can motion to adopt the Garfield Clean Energy goal.
it must be my turn. Make a motion to adopt Garfield clean energy goals. Here.
Motion by Marty, second by Lonnie, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right,
Great,
thank you.
all right, welcome, Carbondale.
Now let's talk about what we can do to achieve those.
Yes.
goals.
Yeah,
And I'd say the work plan, there's a lot in here.
there's a lot in here.
And maybe before you kind of start going through it and, you know, we can assume that we've read it, but there's so much in here that I think we will need to hit some of the highlights. Maybe frame it with like what feedback would be helpful.
Well, I was gonna start with a quick overview of what we did last year, if that's helpful.
Sure.
We don't, I mean, yeah.
I think that's great.
Okay, so let's do that and then we can go.
So is there a part in our packet we should look at for this or just?
I have something that I'm gonna share.
And this is the document that's on your desk.
I don't know that I have screen sharing capacity.
Oh, you know what?
I'm just not seeing that place for that.
I need to make you a panelist. Hang on.
Yeah.
Now you should be able to do it.
All of my. I'm just trying to find where it is, just the presidential mode.
It's down on the bottom there.
Down on the bottom?
Go to that one right. The fourth one maybe?
This one?
Or move over from that.
That one.
Yes.
Wow. I don't know how to do that. Figure out. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of some of the things that we did last year, and this hopefully, we're looking at this with an anticipation of what we're doing this year as well. So a lot of this stuff we're building on. And some of this, yeah. Let's go. So we have 5 main sections that we were working under in 2022. So one of them was assist with the comprehensive plan update and unified development code amendments. Catherine Rushton was specifically working on this. So we continue to work with Cushing Terrell to incorporate the framework of the climate protection and the comprehensive plan. So we saw how from that we had like a meeting, a community meeting in 2021, the fall of 2021, and a lot of the ideas that came from that were put into the comprehensive plan. We developed language for the electric vehicle infrastructure, renewable energy, and electrification goals. And we delivered this to the town staff to incorporate into the unified development code. We're going to be continuing to work on that this year. Energy and green code updates. This is a lot of the work that Jeff Dickinson does for us and for you. So updating and adopting the IPCC 2018 for new commercial construction. Organizing and facilitating meetings between key players to plan and coordinate the effort. And designing a benchmarking program based on best practices and strategies utilized by other similar communities. And this goes back to our our path to net zero roadmap as well. Continuing on, creating a roadmap and timeline for implementing performance standards for different sized commercial buildings. So that was the roadmap that we adopted last fall. Developing language to include the International Existing Building Code, EBC 2018, pertaining to energy efficiency measures and defining situations that require compliance. These are good things to talk to Jeff Dickinson about. Who would be here tonight, but we, and yes, Heidi can also answer questions about these things. He is 2 hours ahead, so this was a bit late for him. Beneficial electrification roadmap for town lanes. So we coordinated the resource engineering group, REG, subcontract to do that decarbonization feasibility study, which is part of the packet that you received today. And then I believe that we also are going to talk more at length about it in a work session later, I think. But that's looking at how the feasibility of electrifying town buildings. We looked into residential beneficial electrification as well. So we researched and reviewed 4 different beneficial electrification programs and presented those alternatives to the e-board. And through discussions with the e-board came to decide on a thermalized style heat pump bulk purchase program, which we'll be talking about in our scope report. And we launched a media campaign advertising existing financing and rebate opportunities for beneficial electrification. And if you guys wanted to see any of that stuff, if you didn't see those campaign materials in the media, we're happy to share them with you guys at another time. And then the continued coordination with the e-board. We maintain a file or a folder online that they have access to with a lot of different resources and background material. We do a lot of communicating back and forth with the e-board and responding to their concerns. And I regularly attend the e-board meetings and the CAP subcommittee meetings as well, the climate action plan subcommittee meetings to look at how we can move forward with those items. And that's it. So quick overview of last year. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Did you guys have any questions about that? Before we move on to this year?
Questions on that? How's the work with the e-board going? I know that that's been challenging in different ways at different times and
Yeah.
different staff members have sort of cycled through.
Mhm.
How's that going? these
Yeah,
days?
I feel like it's going really well. It does go up and down, and, I feel like I'm in a really good spot with the current e-board, and, yeah, I feel positive.
You mentioned about the Go EV program.
That is coming up in, yeah, yeah.
Couple of
Yeah.
meetings,
Yeah,
couple of meetings.
yeah.
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 Where you get to that 15%.
Yeah. Okay, so you had said what kind of
Yeah,
feedback?
you're gonna tell us a lot of things that you're planning on doing this year. As I look through these, I was like, are we really gonna do all this year? You know, is there anything that you'd like feedback on specifically or just kind of an update?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we frame this in the context of the GCE goals. So hopefully that kind of puts things in perspective of like, you know, we are choosing these things specifically to meet these specific goals. Or to help us meet those goals. And, you know, for me, I would love to hear as we go through it, what are some of the priorities for the town? Because it is really broad and we're covering a lot. And we feel we need to because the time is now. And we're excited to do that. But it is, you know, it is purposely ambitious. So I'd love to hear from the Board of Trustees as we go through it, what are some of the priorities? What would you most love to see happen? With the intention that it's all good. Okay, so the first goal, the first GCE goal, is the energy savings in the built environment. And maybe I'm gonna let Heidi talk about this stuff specifically because she is more fluent in this language. Yeah.
So one of the tasks that we've set out here is to update and bring Carbondale up to the 2021 IEC, which is the energy code. And some folks may be aware of some state legislation that's been put into place to move all of the jurisdictions who have any building codes up to the 2021 IECC. So we would just be getting a little bit ahead of that. Basically, every jurisdiction in the state has 3 years to come up to 2021. It's not going to be as heavy a lift for Carbondale as it will be as for other communities because of the standards you guys already have. We also have tasked ourselves with updating the residential efficient building program and required documentation, and that's kind of based on feedback from town staff that the documentation is onerous and that the worksheet doesn't really work for folks. I'm not aware of any specific changes to the point system or anything like that scoring or really the way the system functions so much as the documentation that's required to meet the requirements. We've made out here to implement the 2022 goals from the path to net zero. That includes implementing code changes for new construction per 2022. And then that is the roadmap to net zero document that you guys have all seen. We worked at the end of last year to adapt all that language to existing buildings, and that's going to be a much heavier lift than new construction. And to be honest, existing buildings use more energy than new buildings do. And these are homes that people are living in, buildings that people own and operate. So we did create language to apply that same construct of the roadmap to net zero to existing buildings. And we will continue to develop and flesh out the plans to implement all of that. We'll continue to support the UBC modifications that Zoe mentioned earlier. And then with the idea, we spoke last time I was here about the home energy score. And so we've kind of designed a pilot program for CLEER to facilitate the implementation of 100 home energy score assessments within the town of Carbondale. And as we discussed before, this is a light, quick assessment that leaves a homeowner with actionable items and a sense of the impact that those actions would have on their home. The idea is that CLEER staff would get certified to do the verification. I am a home energy rater. I've done verification of all different sorts for many, many years. So the thinking is that I would get certified as a home energy score assessor. And that the part of that lift would have to be the administrative side, scheduling it, making it happen. That would happen at no cost to the homeowners. We continue to provide intensive energy coaching to homeowners with a focus on looking ahead to the reduction to rebates and other benefits that will come from the Inflation Reduction Act, and developing a program to tap some upcoming DOE funding opportunities that we expect to bring money to Garfield County. And we will take whatever information we'll learn from our experience with this pilot program with the home energy score and use it to inform those trigger points that Zuleika kind of touched on about if we were to move forward with a plan where the town required home energy scores. We had talked about various trigger points that would make the home required to have one. And I think this beginning of this home energy score pilot program can inform that process. We have ideas in mind that we've already put in writing about the logical triggers and the ones that other and larger communities are currently using, but we'll learn from our experience with the home energy score. We'll begin to implement the plan for the town-owned buildings or electrification for the town-owned buildings using the REG report that you guys all received as a guide. And I feel like we've kind of already developed a plan to start the very beginnings of assessment for work on this building. We begin with seeing the town hall as not only being the lowest hanging fruit, the systems that are in this building lend themselves well to electrification. And we've already had an assessment of the electrical service coming into the building. So it's a fairly known quantity. And also we're aware that there is an issue with the PD at the Public Works building. And we're moving forward with getting someone out. I probably gonna have to tap Erica's historical knowledge to figure out if there's someone we should start with on that. And I will, you're asking that. But we talked about getting an installer just to check out the inverters, which it seems that there is an inverter, a problem with one of those inverters at the Public Works building. Our team is continuing to follow up on a DOE grant that was submitted and is in process to utilize ground source heat for a net zero district concept that includes 3rd Street Center, the 2nd Street townhomes, and Roaring Fork School District properties that are there on 3rd Street. If we don't know yet if it's going to be awarded, but if the project isn't awarded, we would use that proposal to apply for other funding opportunities. And then last, Zuleika mentioned a thermalized style heat pump program to launch in 2024. That would be to design the program. Thermalized it'd be a group, a bulk buy for heat pump equipment for homes in the town of Carbondale. And the idea would be to organize and plan the program this year and have it ready for implementation next year.
Let's pause there for a moment, because that seems like the biggest chunk of work is all this under the built environment. So questions or feedback on any of that? Does anything stand out as a top priority out of those? We'd love to know if you all feel like that's all feasible. Contract. Yeah.
Yes, yes, the answer is yes.
Right.
Yeah, especially with Heidi already being such a competent building rater, verifier. I think we already have the team set up for this one. Yeah.
And it'll take this part, the home energy score part will take a lot of time. 100 assessments, that's not math, that's a lot considering it's February. But I've given it a lot of thought, my commutes, and I have a lot of time to commit to this. You guys are going to be getting a lot of my time, and I'm good with that.
And then, and Jeff Dickinson will be doing a lot of the code work NBC stuff as well.
Questions? I just wondered about, since we still don't have a building official,
Yeah.
I know that that's part of what held up our code work in the past. And even before we lost our building official, he was so busy with things. Does this feel feasible, sort of outsourced like
We
that?
are very aware of the situation and the goals, the priorities. But we talked about Lauren and Kevin, and it makes perfect sense. You guys are gonna hold out more firsthand experience. I'm gonna go ahead and say I have concern. About the code legislation.
Oh, about the specific, about your.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just aware, I'm just very aware. With this goal to implement the 2021 IECC this year, that would be great, and I understand if the town feels pressure. If we need to meet and talk about how that could happen and what needs to happen, that's the biggest piece to me.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second, Heidi? We are already working on some of that with our other contractor from Shauna from Mozingo Group. And we've talked about it with Jeff Dickinson. So we have gotten a start on that, but it has been stalled because of the lack of a building official.
And we have gotten a start on, Sean has another colleague of hers who's doing a lot of the same work, and we've been working on being ready to support the town in the transition whenever they are ready for it.
Great.
Education, I've been really getting brushed up myself on it. And I personally have seen municipalities and builders and architects through multiple code changes in the past. So it's not, that process isn't super new to me, but that doesn't affect your staffing concerns.
Right.
And what you guys.
I've already offered her the job, but
Right.
It sounds like if she was, like, we would understand if you came back to us later in the year and said, and staff said, we're gonna keep moving on all this stuff, but that's too big of a lift for our new building official with all this other stuff going on, so we're gonna move that one to 2024. Like, if the state's given us 3 years and we're trying to get ahead of it, that's admirable, but if it's not feasible, then let us know.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you know.
Okay, go for it.
I'm sorry. There's a thing that I've been really hounding on, and I just want to acknowledge in this room that I do have I'm concerned. So we have it between now and July 1st. After July 1st of 2023, if a jurisdiction that has any building codes at all, makes any changes to those building codes, that triggers the requirement of this new state legislation for that jurisdiction to move to IECC 2021. We're planning on doing that anyway. It seems like you guys are in support of it. I'm just mentioning it that if after July 1, the town changes any building code, and I don't know if that involves UC, I don't know if that involves municipal code. I think it's just building code.
I think it's just building code too. I read it the
I'm
other
just
day.
mentioning this. I'm very aware that there are jurisdictions out there that don't fully understand this. And if they change a plumbing code in October, then they would be required to begin that process. So I'm looking out for you guys on that one.
And at the last GCE meeting, we had that presentation from a gentleman at the state energy office, and it sounded like there was some support available from the state potentially on kind of expertise on this kind of thing.
For sure, and we should, make sure that we stay in touch offline about that. There's funding to provide staffing that could provide the town, the jurisdiction could use for staffing for code enforcement. So that money does exist.
For code enforcement or adoption?
Enforcement, both.
Okay,
Actually.
let's talk about that later.
Yeah, just if it comes down to it.
Thanks.
I would just say too, I love the heat pump bulk buy. My neighbors on both sides of me have tried to install heat pumps recently because they're just ambitious with their own kind of energy goals. And they found it very difficult to navigate the market. And then they found it even more difficult to find a contractor who will install it. And so I would assume that as part of that, we're going to line up installers and make this doable. Because I think there's a pent-up demand, and you're going to have a lot of people who jump at that opportunity. And that'll have a big impact. So I think that's a great point. Any other thoughts on this section?
I'll just echo that. I think it's important that we try to be ready in 2024, if that's when these tax credits are available. That it's, oh, people are aware of it and that it's actually ready to roll instead of, oh, now we're planning it or something and we missed the vote on, so I'm like.
Yeah, that would be,
whatever.
that would be the idea, is to have it ready to launch for 2024, have the contractors in place, having hopefully, good marketing.
I think,
campaign.
yeah, hopefully, yeah, just trying to, I guess, I mean, yeah, I think maybe there is pent-up demand for it, but I don't know, maybe there is some, probably a fair amount of ignorance about it all too, so, trying to make it more, people more aware. 2024 being our big first, heat pump year or whatever.
Yeah, and I suppose there could be, a glitch in the plan could be if the state of Colorado isn't ready to roll out the rebates in 2024. I mean, I think they kind of have to be, but it might be late in 2024. I don't think they have to be. What is good point, one thing I just want to mention, clarify, is that the tax credits are already available.
Hmm.
The rebates are going to be bigger, that's to everything, but the tax credits are significant for homeowners. Those are already available, so, those worth it. Yeah.
And it seems like these things each build on each other, right? Where you're doing the home energy scores and you're saying, add a heat pump. Here's the rebate, here's the bulk buy, here's the installer. Like, I just love the way that that's a pipeline to help make it easy.
Mhm.
Yeah. We went through all this with the ERA funding in the Obama era. And it worked, like a lot happened. And this is like drinking from the fire hose, trying to get this money out to people. But it really did work, and I feel confident that will work again.
Let's keep going. We've got one more areas.
Yeah.
That seemed to be the biggest one.
Yeah, it is by far the biggest. So next is the carbon-free electricity goal. And we are looking at assessing the Carbondale community's overall progress towards carbon-free electricity, identify key actions and investment level needed to accelerate progress toward 100% carbon-free electricity, covering the entire community's electricity use, and develop proposals to tap federal, state, utility, or other funding to implement. So this is really working with the utilities to get a better handle on the state of rooftop solar and other solar in Carbondale. It's a bit tricky to figure that out right now. And then also look at what else can we do? What's next? Because we had a big push with the Third Street Center and the high school and some of the town buildings. So where can we go next to help us push this? So this is like maybe we're not building a community scale solar in Carbondale this year, but we're looking at what are the options and how do we get that us closer. But that includes rooftop solar and other renewable energy opportunities, hopefully. What about that?
One question, I've been hearing a lot lately about the inability of the utilities to activate these things. So people are installing them and they're just sitting there fallow. So what's the solution to that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we've heard some feedback from Carbondale residents too about being ready to go and just waiting for the utility to hook it up and make it start working. And I don't know that I have a great answer for that right now, except that we are working, like we are really developing our relationship, and we already have a really great relationship with Blue Cross, and we're in touch with them all the time about what they're doing. And we're really building that relationship with Excel as well through the Partners in Energy process. That was part of how these goals came to be. And then we're continuing that work with Carbondale, looking at Carbondale specifically. So besides saying, and it sounds like Heidi has something to say, but like working on that so that we have a path forward with these connection problems.
That what's happening is that there's a kind of a labor shortage and there's a delay in getting Excel staff to sort of flip the switch. And it isn't a capacity issue. It isn't about the grid stability or anything like that. It's simply somebody taking the time to literally flip a switch and to set that, connect that house. I just wanted to be clear, because there's a lot of concerns about can the grid, is it about grid capacity, can it handle? That's not what's slowing people down. It's truly just human time. So it's
Human capacity.
human capacity. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sounds like on carbon-free electricity, it's really an analysis on planning
Yeah,
here.
it
Rather
is.
than doing here.
Yeah.
maybe Next year. Okay.
Then clean mobility, our goal of clean mobility. So this is where the Go EV City comes in. So the E-Board is already putting together that resolution to be a Go EV City. And I don't know when they're planning to present it to the board, but I think it's soon. And so we, just as CLEER, we're going to support the E-Board in that and help them if they need help doing that. We just found out this last week that we were awarded a grant through the Colorado Energy Office to do an e-bike. It's a kind of a giveaway program where for income qualified people in Garfield County, they will be able to apply. And because it's coming from the Energy Office, it's specifically about reducing car miles traveled, so vehicle miles traveled. So we'll be looking for applicants who typically drive to work, but live and work either within the same town or within one town boundary in the county, because we feel like those are the people who are going to be most likely to be able to ride a bike instead of drive. And so, yeah, we're really excited that we get to do this. It had its pilot project or pilot program last year. A couple of cities in Colorado did it, and then Garfield County was awarded this year. So we're really excited. And we anticipate that a lot of applicants are going to be from Carbondale.
So that would be for people who are working and living in the same town, so you're saying?
Say it again.
They'd be for people who are living and working in the same town?
Or within one town boundary. So not people who live in Rifle and work in Glenwood Springs, because you can't ride a bike through the canyon. And you know, maybe if it even something like parachute to Rifle is, I think, a bit of a haul, even on an e-bike. I don't think we're going to get a lot of applicants who are doing that, but you know, we would consider that. But we want it to be a realistic work commute.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not really a hard and fast, like, town boundary thing. It seems like maybe a radius or something.
Yeah, it's something that if you a realistic distance for riding your bike, riding a bike. Yeah.
But there are income restrictions.
There are. Yeah, it'll be 80% of the area median income will be the income qualifications. Yeah.
And in other localities, the money's been gone very rapidly, correct?
In this e-bike program?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we heard was that from the communities that were participating in the pilot project, that they actually, most of them had a hard time finding applicants. They all kind of had their own target population.
Okay.
And what we heard was that was the hardest part, was finding people.
Because what I had read was it had been done in Denver.
The Denver program.
The money ran out within
So,
like 4 months.
Yeah, so the Denver program is different. That's through their sustainability. I can't remember what their department is called. So they use part of that sales tax that we talked about last time to fund this e-bike rebate program. And that is, they are gone within minutes of them opening that. So this is a different style of program. There's going to be quite a robust application. They also are going to have to agree to monitor their use. So they have to report how often they're using it, how many miles they're traveling, things like that. And then you know, they'll have to do all the income qualifications and everything.
And that'd be a percentage you said of AMI, Garfield County.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll continue with our regular bike fair programming and really looking at ways that we can do kind of a metric based assessment. You know, we talked at a GCE meeting about making sure that our bike programs, our active transportation programs aren't just preaching to the choir. We're not just getting the same people doing it over and over again. So looking at how we can improve and making sure that we're really encouraging more people to choose active transportation. And then also, you know, supporting the town's clean mobility planning efforts. And that's kind of
you know, we want to be involved in that as much as you guys want us to be. It's really important to the CLEER staff. That, you know, this is a big part of the CLEER and the people that work at CLEER, so we'd love to be able to participate in that. Any other questions about clean mobility? Okay. So then greenhouse gas emissions and really a lot of all of the things that we're doing are helping us meet those goals in the greenhouse gas emissions goal. But we're also going to be updating the analysis on the Carbondale specific emissions sources and report on progress on emissions reductions. So, you know, like I said previously, really digging down into Carbondale specific data with utilities. And then this third item here came from the e-board. And we think it's a great idea to help replace gas-powered lawn care equipment with electric. You know, the way that it was worded from the e-board was let's ban gas-powered lawn equipment. And maybe that is a goal eventually, but perhaps we could start with an incentive to go electric, and we could talk about that further. What would that look like? What would a town incentive look like? Is it a gift? Is it, I don't know. Well, we could talk about that, but I do think that's one of those things that individuals can do in a town that maybe it's not a huge scale, but it makes it look like it's a little bit of it all. So we definitely be interested in helping do that, or we're planning that.
My only thought there would just be, I don't know that we're gonna come up with funding in our general fund for handing out to people buying lawnmowers. So I think we'll have to be creative there, whether it's another, the bulk buy concept seems to be a really promising thing, and it sort of motivates people to, you've been kind of sitting on the fence and it's like, okay, it's spring and I need a new lawnmower and there's a bulk buy and it's affordable and it's, you know, maybe it's reducing the cost in ways like that, or if there's other grants that we can channel, but I'm not going to be very supportive probably of a request for thousands of dollars.
You have money.
General fund for lawn equipment.
And I think thinking creative like that is perfect. I don't think it has to be a cash rebate. I think it just has to be one of those things that pushes people over the decision edge.
And we typically don't give out cash rebates ourselves. We leverage federal and state rebates, and you all do a great job of providing that. So I stick with that model.
Where do the lithium battery lawnmowers fit in?
Where do they fit in?
Yeah. I mean, is that considered electric? You recharge the lithium battery?
Yes, that's considered electric. That's what we're talking about.
And I mean, my only question is, when I see gas lawnmowers, it's usually landscaping companies that are doing, you know, like big yards.
I invite you to come to my neighborhood.
You've had a battery lawnmower for 5 years.
We have a plug-in one, and it's totally fine for our space.
So you run over the extension cord like I did.
No, next step is yours.
Support some time.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should be talking about incentives to Xeriscape rather than.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. So the last one, clean energy, economic development and jobs. And this is one that's like, it's hard to pinpoint into Carbondale specifically because it really is a region-wide goal, but we're thinking of it at more in a publicity standpoint. From a publicity standpoint, so working with the Chamber of Commerce to update information on the website and in other places about Carbondale's leadership in sustainability and clean energy to focus more on what we're doing, and then creating some sort of a fact sheet or an informational brochure that can be updated on an annual basis to show all of our progress, to show, you know, whether it's visitors or residents or whoever that we're making continued progress in these areas. And then, you know, we'd love to help promote ongoing innovations, such as like the Nettle Creek Microhydro project. I don't know a lot about that, but I hear about it, and I think everybody needs to know that we're doing this. And so we would love to help in the promotion of projects like that. And looking at, you know, all of the resources that we have within Carbondale, whether it's local solar installers or
other, sustainability firms that we would, highlight and bring.
Questions with that?
I know, I'll just comment. I think that's, that promoting, things that the town of Carbondale is doing, I think is a great leveraging the resources that CLEER has, to get that material out so that we can use it as well, I think would be, really appreciated. Cause I do think, you guys are doing a lot, CCE is doing a lot, we're part of all of that, and then we've also doing these other things, and even just doing the REG project, which is wonky as that is, and I totally love the report, like letting people know, like, we are assessing the town hall for electrification, and if we make it happen, like, that'd be a huge deal. And so I think that would be great to have that. Of those, that's what I like the most in that section, is just feeling like getting your guys' help, making sure our community knows all the things that we're getting done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
thanks to
think
you
it's
guys. You guys are helping us with.
Yeah, and I think it's something that CLEER is really good at. I think we've got a good network of outreach and communications, and we tap into all the variety of resources here that help people know what's going on.
Great, that's all we need. to
That's
talk
it,
about.
that's it, that's all.
That's good. Well, there's one.
Is that all?
The, thoughts, questions or feedback on those? The work plans,
For me, the first, number one, the energy saving in the built environment, those 5 points are the most important things to me. And the rest of it be nice, but I think those things, God, it would be awesome if we could get those done. I'm gonna be surprised if we get them all done, but I think those are great. Those are hard and they
Ideas of how to more effectively meet those goals, let us know.
There's other feedback or thoughts?
I would just echo what Erica said, that we're doing a heck of a lot, and telling that story would be better. Public information officer,
Working on it.
okay. But yeah, telling that story so people can just go to our website and go sustainability goals, boom, 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 here's our GC goals, this is what we're doing, all these things would be great, because there's a lot going on, but sometimes it's actually track of it.
But to my mind, I would prefer it if we had a public information officer who could do that and not waste their time necessarily.
Oh,
too much,
absolutely, that's why I
like
asked.
making reports as
Yeah,
much as like
absolutely.
doing the work
Yeah,
itself.
yes.
So,
Thanks, Colin. I would agree with Chris. I think that the built environment is the area that we have the most control over of all this, right? Like greening the grid. We can do some, but a lot of greening the transportation, like the buildings we control. So, and the codes and the land use we control. So I appreciate that that's your biggest chunk of work. And we understand the limitations without having a building official. And people have been asking us for a long time about retrofitting this building, and we've done an assessment a few years ago, and I'm glad that we've done another assessment, and so I look forward to hearing about that. It's the interesting things that we can do. Yeah, right. Any last thoughts? Okay. Thank you for the update. Thank you for being our partner and helping us achieve all these goals. I think it's up to us to keep telling this story and keep helping people understand, this question of when are we going to get a sustainability manager? We'll keep getting asked that question. It's a valid question. But here's our sustainability manager. It's a whole team of people with a whole range of expertise that we budget $90,000 between our contract with GCE, our membership in GCE, and our contract with CLEER. And then we make additional investments as needed in things like replacing our own infrastructure. So I just think, yes, we're on that. I think we have a really good system in place for achieving these goals.
Well, I would just like to echo that, and that we also have a great staff at town hall, all the department heads are always thinking this way. And I mean, Eric was like, "Oh, I really don't want to do this, but here's where we are. So I think it's already embedded in the culture of the organization, and with CLEER's help, we can take it to the next level. So, I can see why people would want that position, but I think it's like, why would we do that?
Okay. Thank you for a great update. Thanks, everybody. I think that's our last item on the agenda, unless I'm missing something. We moved out
Nope,
here.
as we move things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys.
Thanks, guys.
I got to.
You're doing better, man. 8:30 is better than.